Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Our forum will start in about 10 minutes. We're going to be streaming it, just so you know. So, forum in 10 minutes. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to present to you Mara Vertrees today, former educator. I was an educator, and when I found out about our backgrounds, lived on Fort Myers Beach. We live on Fort Myers Beach. So, to introduce you to Mara, she's an educator, a retired educator, mother of 3 adult children, and proud grandmother of 5. She began her work as a career journalist, working as a freelance writer and a newspaper reporter. Moving into education, she taught at the middle school level, as my husband and I did, and worked in school administration. We did not do that. We did not go that far. Concerned about climate issues, she joined Third Act 2 years ago and became a founding member of the Florida Working Group, where she leads the communications team. Some of you may have participated in our Third Act action that we did through our Green Sanctuary website, thanks to Joni. We urged Costco to put pressure on Citi. Citi is the bank that issues Costco's credit cards. We urged them to divest from its excessive investment in fossil fuels. Mara's going to tell us more about how that project went, or how that initiative went. And I'm anxious to learn about more things that Third Act is involved in. So please give a UUCGN warm welcome to Mara Vertrees.
Hello, thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting me to come and speak to you about something really near and dear to my heart, which is Third Act. So I'm going to just kind of go through some slides, tell you a little bit about what Third Act is, some of the things that we are doing, and some of the things that we hope to do. So again, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Okay. So who is Third Act? Third Act is a national organization, and it says it right there. We're a community of experienced Americans over the age of 60 determined to change the world for the better. And together we'll use our experiences, skills, and resources to build that better tomorrow. And we have 2 main pillars. It's the climate and our environment, and it is democracy. The way I heard about it was I was reading an article. I don't remember what the article was about. It had something to do with the environment. And there was this little line that said, the new group is starting called Third Act that is going to focus on climate and democracy. This was about 2.5 years ago. And there was a link, and I clicked on it. And here's what I love about the name of it and what it means. And that is, if anybody's been in theater, which I have, you divide things into 3 acts. And as in our life, in our first act, you know, we're young, we're having a good time, maybe we're doing some activist stuff, but we're young people. And then we move into a second act where we are so busy. We have children, we have jobs. We vote, but what else? We're so busy. We send a check, some, environmental defense fund or whatever. But our third act, we're retired. We have a little more time. We might have a little more resources. We have lots and lots of skills and experience, and we are not done. And I was so excited because I heard Jane Fonda say that at the Oscar speech, we're not done. And I'm like, that's kind of our motto here at Third Act. We're not done. There are things that need to be worked on, and we can use our third act to do that. So that's kind of who we are. It is designed to be a national organization, but local action. So we are divided into working groups. And my stars got kind of funky on this slide. The one on Georgia should be on Florida. But there are actually now 35 working groups. That's 35 states where there are groups united to work along with national on big issues, but also to work locally. Then they have affinity working groups, lawyers, faith, creatives, unions, and educators. So if you want to be involved in Third Act, you can also join one of those, and they are all working in their separate ways for the same goals. This is where our members live. We have about 400, well, last I looked on my mailing list, because I'm communications sending out the newsletter, there were 405 members. We started a year and a half ago, and there were 4 of us. So we feel pretty good about that. You know, we'd love it to be 810 members by the end of this year or more. So we are spread all over the state. You can see where we mostly are, that nice I-4 corridor, but that's where we are. One of the challenges in Florida, we're such a big, long state. Yesterday I was in Gainesville for a Third Act meetup. It's kind of hard to get together in person. Most of our things are on Zoom because we're so spread far apart. So who knows, maybe we'll really grow and we'll be like some of the other places like the state of New York and California where they have a couple of groups within the state by geography. So what is our vision of our group? And it's to leave younger generations of Floridians the sustainable climate and thriving democracy that they deserve. And Leslie mentioned my 5 grandchildren. I'm older, I'm in my 70s. I don't know what's going to happen with me, but I'll be darned if I won't use everything I've got to make sure that those 5 beautiful children have a planet that they can go out and play in the sun and the beach, and that they can vote, and it will mean something. So that's where I'm coming from. This is one of the other things I love about Third Act. When they first started on the national level, this is National's working principles. And you can see what they are. Be kind, be inclusive, be humble, boost others. Boost others is really important. That speaks to the partnerships. We have partnerships with many, many other organizations throughout the nation and in Florida, like Sierra Club, the Climate Reality Project. And I'll tell you about some of those as we get farther in. Be creative. We have the Third Act creatives, and they come up with some pretty good stuff on social media. Take care means take care of yourself. Don't get so over-involved that you're not sleeping at night. You got to give yourself nurturing also. We back up youths. We work with the younger people, trying to create sort of a pathway for them, but also there are youth groups doing things, and we are happy to sign on or stand next to them with a sign. Being accountable for what we do and being accountable to the national organization. We're all supposed to do that because we are a 501c3 and we tread the line pretty closely of like getting ourselves in trouble. So I'll talk more about that too. Be generous, but not to a fault. You don't have to give a penny to be part of Third Act. You can donate if you want, but we would rather have your time, your voice, and that we are all in this together. Third Act has 3 campaign clusters. Again, this comes from national. First of all, the national organization was founded by Bill McKibben. Do you raise your hand if you're aware of him? Okay. Very strong environmentalist. He's written over 20 books and an activist. So this was kind of his idea. He also started 350 Degrees, which works to turn things around, but I'm very excited about Third Act. So it was started with the founding national level said we would have 3 campaign clusters. Fossil-free finance, and we got referred to with the Costco campaign, trying to get big money out of fossil fuels. Democratizing energy, that's really about your public service commissions and what happens there. And I'll speak to that in a bit. And then uplifting democracy and voting. And I love the picture, if you can see it very well. Bill McKibben has referred to us as rocking chair rebels. And they did an action in New York where they brought rocking chairs and they sat in front of Citibank's headquarters and they came for 3 different days, and by the 3rd day they started getting arrested and they were just thrilled. They were just waving and thumbs upping, and but they sat in their rocking chairs and blocked the entrance. So yeah, it's a pretty active thing, or it was. So I'm just going to talk about climate a little bit because that's kind of how it started with the climate concerns and campaigns. By the way, I took this picture, Fort Myers Beach. I'm sure you all know this, but we just like to include this. There's weather and there's climate. So the weather, of course, is what's it like today. Climate is what's happening on a much bigger scale. These are actual temperatures. People want to say it's not happening. If they want to fight with me about the reasons, I still think they're wrong and I'm right. But don't say it's not happening. What are some of the impacts? There are so many impacts. Globally, it's just changing throughout our world. Hot days get hotter, droughts get drier. There's been a lot of concern in our country and across the planet about migration and immigrants. And I had a discussion with someone recently whose sister lives in Germany and the concerns they have there. And one of the reasons they're getting so many immigrants is not just war, it's because so much of Africa is drying out and people can't live where they are, where they've lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. When that happens, they don't want to just sit there and die, they move. So the impacts of this change are much more than, can I still grow tomatoes this time of year? Huge impact. Rising sea levels and extreme sea level events. Now we know about our hurricanes here, but we need to be aware of the sea level threat. When we first moved here in 1987, so I've been in Florida a long time, from South Bend, Indiana, and we first lived there. We were told on Fort Myers Beach, don't even think about a hurricane. Don't worry about it. We don't get hit here. They come across the Atlantic. We're safe because of the Gulf. The last hurricane they had been impacted on at all was in 1960, and it was Hurricane Donna, which did come across the Atlantic, but went across the state and then came back. We did not have a hurricane impact us until 2004, and that was Charlie. We sat in our house when Charlie hit, and we lost trees, and one of our trees fell on our car. I mean, it was real exciting. Since Charlie, how many have we had? From 2004 to now, Charlie, Ian, Helene, Irma, Wilma. And it's not going to stop. So we're hitting with these huge storms, but the sea level is another issue. So one of my very best friends lives in Fort Myers Beach, and they have a canal. And in Ian, they had 8 feet of water in their house. They were able to rebuild. Milton, they had 2 feet. They were not happy. But the thing they've noticed is they have a little seawall. They had lived there. They bought that house in 1999, and they have been there. They have never had water coming over their seawall. Now, even a small storm puts water over their seawall because there are tipping points. So this is something that we need to be aware of. And like I said, people can argue. They can say, oh, well, I don't think it's because of fossil fuels. Well, but let's at least admit it's happening. That's our starting point, right? And say, now let's try to look at, can we mitigate it? What are we going to do? How do we know climate change is caused by humans? It's got to do with that solar heat, the blanketing and holding the greenhouse gases. The first article printed about this was like in 1896, by a woman scientist who had realized that carbon dioxide could do this. So, this is not some new tree-hugging, I'm a crazy liberal, I just decided this. This science of it has been around a long time. So some of the things that Third Act has been doing is, first of all, they were trying really hard to lean on those banks. I told you about when they put their rocking chairs in front of the Citibank. But then they started working on Costco, because we all love Costco, right? I mean, I don't know if you do, but I love it. I love it, and they're a great company, and they're not getting rid of their DEI, but they have a credit card with Citibank. So we started sending petitions, writing letters. Some people met with managers, and Costco actually had a meeting with people from Third Act and explained that they are in a contract with Citibank right now, but they are open to looking at this, to telling Citi, you've got to clean up your act, or we might change who our bank is. So that's pretty good. There's also a Costco Shareholders Club. If you have any shares of Costco, or you can buy like 1% of a share, and you can vote in those shareholders clubs. So a lot of people from Third Act have done that. You can move your own money. You can look at your bank and say, am I at one of the most dirty banks, like Chase and Citibank, and move it to a friendlier bank? And then we also started a campaign called Condos for Clean Energy. Where does your homeowners association put their money? These were all the things we were working on, but, oh, and these are some ways to become a climate activist. Just talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it to people. Join one of the climate action groups. There's lots of them. Hold politicians accountable. Write that letter. I heard you do something with calling politicians. Let them know, hey, we don't like this. You need to work on this. Consider where your money is and reduce your own personal footprint. However, this is what we're working on the most right now. We're not sitting in front of banks right now, partly because the banks have no incentive for government to change anything now. And most of the energy of Third Act is going right now into this third pillar because we're alarmed by some of the things that are happening right now in our nation. And Florida is just the proving ground of the whole thing. I mean, we've seen things happening here before they started to play out in Washington. So we're endorsing candidates and supporting campaigns throughout the nation. The national is, but we also are here in Florida. We are supporting all of our partners in their actions. We work at the grassroots level. I'm going to go into each of these a little bit more. And then we speak out, we write, we call, we email, we have a presence on social media. So these are some of the things that we are doing right now in line with this. Again, we're a 501c3, so I could tell everybody in Third Act, which I have on the Facebook and Blue Sky, to go and support some candidates, but I can't coordinate with their campaign. I can only say, we're endorsing them, these are ways you can support them, and I have some handouts about that in the back. So who are we endorsing? Do you know about these races? Raise your hand if you're aware. Good, okay. District 1 and District 6 in Florida. District 1 is where Matt Gaetz was, and of course he's gone. And Josh Weil in District 6 is Michael Waltz, his name is, and he's the new National Security Advisor. They were appointed by Trump. Well, Gaetz tried to be appointed by Trump, but you know that story. And these two districts are up right now. They're going to vote on them April 1. If both of these people would win, there would be a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. That's how close it is. There's also going to be election in New York. If New York would go to a Republican and these two would win, it would be deadlocked, it would be tied. But that's how important these elections are. And I read somewhere, less than 1% of the voting public of the United States of America is going to vote and determine our House of Representatives for the next couple of years. Wow. So what can we do? We can't vote there. We're endorsing them. And I do have a handout with some links. You can go right on. They'll take anything. They'll take your money. They'll let you phone bank. They'll let you send postcards. Do we have any chance? Well, in District 1, not much, because that was Matt Gaetz. And as my daughter told me, that's the panhandle. It's a little strip along the panhandle. She said probably Matt Gaetz was exactly the representative they wanted. So they might not go for Gay Valmont. One of her big things is gun control, and we're not sure if that resonates very well there, but we can still try. Josh Weil's district is up for grabs. It's a gerrymandered district, and it goes like sort of through St. Augustine, and it kind of wraps around and through Putnam County, but it does have pockets, and I'm trying not to be partisan. Why do we support these Democratic candidates? Because they support the things we believe in. Josh Weil has a big issues page on the environment on his, and he's a teacher. And so he's all about, letting kids read books and learn and think for themselves. He's a single father of 2 sons, and there's a chance. He has said on his website he has already knocked on 40,000 doors. He plans on knocking on over 140,000 doors. So why do we have a chance? First of all, it's a special election. Most people don't go to special elections. Can we motivate people that will think the way we do to get out there and go to that election? And secondly, especially in District 6, the person that he's running against is not a popular person at all. He's been in the State House, and his big thing he ran on was putting concealed weapons at college campuses. So he's not a popular candidate. Even winning one of these, can you imagine, you know what the Congress people are like. You get a representative who's kind of not comfortable with some of the things that are happening in Washington, and there are a lot of them. And suddenly they see a Democrat win in a gerrymandered Republican district in Florida. They're going to go, maybe I can vote my conscience on a few things and keep my job. This is important. So we are all in on these elections. These are the partners that we're supporting. Now, there are more, but these are 4 big ones. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the Environmental Voter Project. Yes, okay. The Environmental Voter Project, it's a guy basically who started this whole thing, Nathaniel Stennett. He is out of MIT, he's a statistician, and they have figured out how many people in this country list environment as their top priority politically, but don't vote. There are over 500,000 of them in Florida alone. If they're questioned on a survey, the environment, and they are registered voters and they don't vote. They are all about getting those people to vote. They phone bank, they send postcards. I've written postcards for them. They're a wonderful project, and we work really closely with them. CLEO is a Florida group that stands for Climate Literacy Education Organization, and they have a youth group element called Gen CLEO. They're very active in trying to help people understand what's happening with our climate, and a great group. Sierra Club, of course, Elders Climate Action. Yesterday, I was at an event in Gainesville, and I met someone from the Climate Reality Project, which I'd heard of, which was started by Al Gore, and we are now partnering with them also. So we just, continue to try to build our partnerships, because whether we're all members of each other's or not, the more voices in unison, the better off we are. And this is what Third Act Florida is working on. We decided I won't go into the whole story of it, but our question was, what can make people care in Florida? How can we get them to start speaking at a grassroots level of any party? What can we get them to start pressuring our legislators and our local community leaders about? And we were like, well, our insurance rates, our homes, our property values, our damage. Everybody cares about that. It doesn't matter if you've never voted or who you vote for. Nobody thinks that it's going well, right? So we thought, calling it Connect the Dots, and helping people understand that this is all, and I'm not good at graphics on the computer, so I did this I'm sure we'll have a prettier thing at some point. They've banned climate education in the public schools. They won't let the words go into the textbooks. They passed a resolution where we had to take the words climate change out of documents at the state level. We're going to make them say climate, because we're going to say it to them. And they're going to hear hundreds of people say, this is an issue, this is a concern. We don't care why you think it's happening, but you need to start addressing the impacts on each one of us as a Floridian by what has been changing. So it's a 3-phase campaign, and the first is really more educational, getting some words out, and then reaching out, a campaign to reach out to legislators across the state to say, get your head out of the sand and admit these things are happening. Okay, I'm going to go to our website in a minute. I'm going to go back a minute because I want to tell you one thing about this. So one of the things I brought a couple of handouts. And one of them is a letter we wrote to Legislator Perez. He's the Speaker of the House here in Florida. There was an investigation that was actually done. It was paid for to be done about insurance rates with the through the Florida legislature, through the State House, and it wasn't released until after they passed a bill that allowed that took away the power to sue your insurance company, right? Well, what this report that they paid for found was that insurance, their rates are tied in Florida to profits. What they found was many insurance companies are funneling off their profits to side companies outside of the state and underreporting their profits, which allows them to charge you more. This just came out like 2 weeks ago. It was put in the Orlando Sentinel, I think, and the Tampa Tribune. And Speaker Perez, who is not always in lockstep with DeSantis, said, I want a full investigation of this and I want to revisit that bill. So we have a letter thanking Speaker Perez. I've got it on the table there. You can take it, you can sign it, you can send it. If you want it electronically, where you put things you want in it, I have a vehicle for you to do that. But we're like, if we want to gain the attention of the State House, let's start out by saying you're doing something right now, and we see it and we appreciate it. So that's one of the steps we're taking. Okay. I know I'm talking a lot, and I'm kind of going over my time, but I'm going to try to go on to my computer here. And the other handout I have for you has all kinds of links, but you can't do it on paper. So I have a sign-in sheet. If you want me to email you this sheet so that you can hit the links on your own, then I will do that. You don't have to be a Third Act member to get the links. So this is the Third Act website. If you're interested and want to learn more, you just put in thirdact.org. And it's going to show you what's going on. And these are how to find a working group. It's very easy. You just go down here. They have different ones featured. So if you want to go to Third Act Educators, it's right there, and you can learn. We have micro websites for every single group, so you can find out what they're working on. And let's see. And I wanted to show you on the sheet we have some of our events. So most of the events are on Zoom. These are from National. So there's always Welcome to Third Acts every couple of weeks. So you could see there will be one tomorrow. There's one on March 24th. And then we have, they are doing a series of trainings for how to be an activist. I went to one on lobbying online last week. This is an all call for every member across the country to kind of hear where we are and where we're going. Third Act Michigan is about to launch. And this is kind of a nice one because we are supposed to take care of ourselves. The Hope and Joy series, to learn how to live a sacred life and how to take care of yourself in these stressful times. So that's kind of who we are and what we're doing. It's sort of a lot of stuff. And we want to go to have my final slide for you. And if you can read it well, but it says, "Blessed are those who plant trees under whose shade they will never sit." Well, that's kind of what I'm asking you to do. Okay? All right. So
thank you so much, Mara. Really appreciate your being here. So Joni and I have microphones, and if we pass it to you, please hold it right to your mouth like you're licking an ice cream cone or whatever. State your name, and then I'm sure Mara will be glad to interact with you and answer any questions that you may have.
I am a teacher, but I didn't do that good, did I?
And apologies for starting late, but this way we are going to be able to stream it. So if you have friends that would like to hear this or need this information, and it's also for Tony, who couldn't be here, he's at a first aid training session and he wanted to be here, then you can direct them. And it would be on Facebook, correct? The streaming for this? Okay. Does anyone have that information where it would be? Okay. Maybe we'll get that out on our website or through Anna. Could I just add something?
Sure.
That the Hope and Joy series, I just jumped on one of those, and I could not believe it. I'm listening to this guy, and I've read his book since then. It's Brian McLaren, found out he lives in Marco Island, and then talked to Tony, and Tony said he's spoken at this church before. He goes around, he's a former minister, former English teacher, and he goes to these large meetings with ministers to try to explain climate change to them, the Baptists, the fundamentalists who no. But anyway, he's written a book called Hope and Doom, and I had to pick that up because I thought, is it really all that, damning? Are we, going for the apocalypse? But no, he has a lot of hope in there too, so.
Well, let me address one more thing, and that is when I first started organizing with Third Act Florida, we just had 10 or 12 people that found Third Act online, and the National sent us their names, so we called them all. Four of us split it up, and we each called 2 or 3 people. And I met a woman in Tallahassee, and she said that why she wants to be involved is because she believes in what she calls active hope. And her whole idea is you've got to have hope, and being active, doing even one little thing, makes you feel more hopeful. It's easy to sit down and get over-newsed out and go, oh my gosh, there's nothing, we wring our hands. But if you just make 10 phone calls for Josh Well, you're like, okay, I hope something can change here. And it is a wonderful concept, and it's one I have totally bought into. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Daphne Whitman, and my question is about, for instance, I'm all excited about the upcoming legislation to make it more difficult to put a citizens' initiative on the ballot. And is your group physically meeting together and heading anywhere? Because I think I'd be far more motivated to be physically active too, if there were a group locally.
Right now, what we're trying to do, thank you very much for asking, is to build that local presence, because like I said, we're sort of spread everywhere. Actually, I mentioned that there's a group called Gen Cleo, and it's college students around the state. And they just were in Tallahassee lobbying on 3 issues, and one of their issues was that change, making it more difficult to put the referendum on the ballot. So we've kind of been boosting and linking to Gen Cleo and following their lead on that one. I can certainly find out and make sure Leslie knows that something's coming up. The other legislation we're really working hard on is the PAUSE Act. Have you heard about that? Okay, and we're linking with another organization that's doing this, but we're lending our voices and the PAUSE Act is an act that says if there's an extreme climate event, the electric companies cannot turn off somebody's services for non-payment. So fallen behind in your bill, and we're getting so many straight days of 98 degrees, you cannot turn off their air conditioning. And I don't know where that's going to go, but that is in committee right now, and we're trying to get that onto the floor and have that discussion going. So that is one other thing. But again, it wasn't a Third Act initiative, it was Third Act hearing about it and signing on, and I just put that out on our social media and how you can engage, so I can get those things too.
How many members throughout the United States do you have?
I think it's about getting close to 200,000. I think it was 170,000 across on the last thing that I saw. So it's gaining momentum. And we've had some pretty interesting ones speak with us. Our last all-in call had Al Gore on it. So, we're trying to spark more interest in. And again, we're not the only organization. If you're in another good organization, but we'd like for you to be aware of us. It costs nothing to join if you just choose to join. You just click the button and you'll just get all our updates.
Hi, I'm Dick Mackin. Do you meet with members of the legislature?
We have not done a lobby day, just Third Act Florida, because again, we're kind of new. We started in August of 23. But there was a lobbying day in Tallahassee that was led by one of the other climate groups, which we had representatives at. So if there's something like that coming up that we know about, we will say, hey, this group is doing this. Do you want to join in? You shoot your name in, and you can go and lobby. So we haven't really done it just as Third Act. We have written letters to the legislatures. We have this letter now going to Perez, but that's where we're moving towards. Absolutely, we're moving towards that. But again, the more people, the better. So if we are there as a big lobbying group on climate, and I'm there with a person from Sierra Club and a person from Climate Reality Project, that's kind of what we're aiming to do.
All right. Well, thank you so much all for coming and for your interest. And we appreciate Mara. Let's give her one more round of applause. And as Tony would say, go out and enjoy yourselves and take advantage of this wonderful day.
Thank you.
Recharge your batteries.
Thank you all very much.